So behind this door is my new music studio. I'm super excited. It took me over 1 year to build this project and to finish it. And finally it's complete. And yeah, I can't wait to share this to you. But before we go down, grab some food, and then I will give you a full studio tour. So enjoy the trip. Let's go. So do you hear this music? They play this music for the last 3 months non-stop in this elevator. I love it. So the most important thing in the morning is to get my proteins, and they have this amazing vending machine here. So basically you can choose different kinds of protein shakes or whatsoever, or coffee. And then well, that's happened when you try to show off something. Okay, again. And there we go, a fresh protein shake for only 60 baht. Okay, and our breakfast is also already here. This time we have croissants. So one small disadvantage of living in a skyscraper like this, you have to wait forever for the elevator all the time. And there's the beautiful music again. We go all the way up, so I want to show you the rooftop. Did you hear that? If you wonder where our food is, we recorded this part already, but we had the wrong camera settings and we couldn't use it. So now I just want to quickly show you the rooftop, and then I will start talking about the studio. It is so hot. You cannot believe how hot it is. Wow. So I just want to talk about let's talk about my studio building process. So one of the biggest problems here in Thailand is you cannot get all the equipment that you like to. For example, you want to buy speakers. Sometimes for specific brands you pay almost 30 to 40% more than like in Germany, for example. So you really have to be careful and think about which equipment you have to buy and which one you import. Another problem is, let's get one up. I feel already sunburned after 2 minutes. Another problem was to find someone who's building the acoustic absorbers for me, because I don't have any experience with it, and I also don't have any space to build it as I live in this big condominium here. So yeah, it took a while to find someone, but luckily I found actually 2 guys who were helping me to build all these absorbers and yeah, mount them on the wall. So I'm super grateful for that. So now, before I completely burn, let's go back to the condo and have the studio tour. Let's go. Happened again. Opening this door is really hard. In the beginning of the video I said that my studio is behind this door. And technically that's correct. But we cannot enter through this door to the room. And there's a simple reason for that. I will show you in a second. So to get into the studio we have to go through the restroom inside the studio. It's like a secret room basically. So let's do this. So we have to squeeze inside the bathroom and then make us really slim here. And then we can enter the studio. How cool is that? So the reason why you can't enter this door is because of this huge bass trap at the corner. One of the biggest problems in small rooms like this is to get the bass frequencies under control. It's super hard to get the lower frequencies sounding tight. So we decided to put as much of absorption as possible inside the room. And that's the reason, for example, why we blocked the door, to simply put more absorption material inside the studio. In total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, a lot of bass traps and absorbers inside the room. For example, this one here is 25 centimeter thick on both sides. These are like 15 centimeters thick with an air gap behind the wall. We have filled all these absorbers with rock wool, and I would highly recommend you to use a similar material for it because it's simply the most affordable while the most effective one at the same time. We have different kinds of absorbers inside the studio. For example, in the corners, this one you can hear, and also the two black ones here, they have a really thin they have a really thin wood panel in front of the absorption material. And the reason for that is that I cannot speak English. To only absorb the lower frequencies, because when you put a lot of absorbers inside a small room, you are facing a problem that you might over absorb the higher frequencies, and the goal is always to have a balanced frequency. And now let's talk about gear. Okay, so let's talk about equipment. The studio is so big, so much space to move. So if you saw one of the first two videos of the series, you might already know that I went for the Vocal Alpha 65 speakers. They are brand new, they just got released I think at the end of last year. And the reason why I bought them is they sound really good, and the price tag here in Thailand was okay. As I mentioned on the rooftop, when you buy some specific gear, sometimes you pay so much more than you actually should pay just because you're in Thailand. They sound good for the price, they sound really, really good. But my dream is to buy at some day the Genelec 8040s. But yeah, they are quite expensive, so I don't have the money for it now. But I hope that I can afford it at the end of this year. But until then, the speakers are good for the price, really, really good. And I think they look also quite cool. Then next, my very first analog synthesizer. This one. Didn't know it's on. I did a lot of research that helped me to decide which analog synthesizer I want to buy. I wanted to have something that's user-friendly and beginner-friendly. To be honest, I haven't dived in too much into the synthesizer, but I started now learning every day and get a better feeling for how it works. And yeah, it's super fun to, you have like the sound and then you turn on the cutoff or whatsoever. Super cool. Cutoff didn't work because it's MIDI right now, but usually it works when you have an external instrument set. It also makes the studio looks much more professional in my opinion, which simply motivates me more to work inside the studio. Then my beloved Vocal Clear Professionals. Some of you know these already. I have them now for 1.5 years. I love them. Fantastic headphones, especially with my SPL amplifier. It's a perfect combination, and even if I have the studio now, I still double check everything I do on the headphones, and it helps me a lot. My most recent update is my new audio interface. Actually, the plan was to get the RME Babyface or even the RME UFC 2, but it's impossible to get them in Thailand. There is no one who's offering them right now. It's everywhere out of stock. Even if they would have it, same problem than with the speakers, it would be so much more expensive than, for example, in Germany. And in Germany, if you order it, you also have to wait 5 to 6 weeks. So it didn't make sense for me to import it and wait that long. So instead, I went for the brand new, actually, Focusrite Claret Plus 4 Pre. Here's the correct name. It has many inputs, many outputs, which is perfect to connect, for example, my amplifier, my new analog synthesizer. I can connect it with MIDI connections, so I don't have any problems with the USB connection, which sometimes might be problematic with synthesizers. And it sounds also really, really good. One thing I noticed, and I wasn't aware about it, is how different audio interfaces sound. So before I had the Universal Audio Arrow, and they sound so different. I wouldn't say one sounds better than the other, just different. So this is a little bit brighter. The Universal Audio was a little bit warmer. But anyhow, it sounds fantastic. I love it. And it works perfectly with my MacBook. The software is also really stable, so nothing to complain about that. And then my last piece of equipment is my microphone, the Rode something. Here's the full name of it. The reason why I bought it, so I'm not a singer, I cannot sing at all. And the reason why I bought it was once that I can make like small vocal chops and simply can record them and then process them. And also that I can try out different ideas for singers, like what vibe fits and what doesn't. And also it looks cool, makes the studio more professional. Well, and then the final feature is this absorber here. That was an idea from one of the guys who helped me to build this studio here. So you can change the color, which is super cool. So depending on the mood, for example, I feel like techno music today, then I might put it into red. Or I feel like psytrance, then I make it purple. Or I feel like partying, then I can make the party mode. Woo-hoo. And I don't know, it makes a cool touch to the studio, especially when it's dark. I really like it. So that's basically the studio with my equipment. Yeah, I have a MIDI keyboard here, pretty basic one from Native Instruments. And of course my 2021 MacBook M1 Pro, which is really good. I have nothing to complain about it. And now let's talk about acoustic. So there are two reasons why people build all these absorbers and put them inside the studio. The first reason is to flatten out the frequency response. The goal is usually to have a good balance between low frequencies and high frequencies within the room. And you can measure this by an SPL measurement. And this one here is my measurement after all the treatment. Unfortunately, I don't have the measurement anymore from the beginning. But trust me, it looked way, way, way worse. So the difference here is between 6 and 7 decibel plus and minus, which is in my opinion really good for a small room like this. But sure, like especially in a bigger room or like in a mixing and mastering crate studio, I think the balance is like plus minus 3 decibel. So it's not perfect, but it's good. And I have to mention this is before SonarWorks. So after SonarWorks, which is a room correction software, the result is already much, much better. And the second reason is to reduce the decay time of the sound. So without any absorption, usually a room like this would sound really muddy and doesn't sound tight at all. And that makes it really hard when you produce or when you mix a song to make the right decisions. Because even if you make it sound good in your room, it's very likely that it sounds bad in every other environment. So it's much more easier to make good decisions when you have a room with a low decay time. The goal is usually to have a decay time from the higher frequencies to the lower frequencies equally for around 250 to 300 milliseconds. But in a smaller room like this, the main concern is always to get the bass frequencies under control. And therefore you sacrifice that your upper frequencies sound a little bit dead or dry as they get a little bit over absorbed. But that's okay, as long as you, in my opinion, as long as you can get the lower frequencies under control. I've been producing in this room now for some days, and I can tell you everything I do is so much clearer and easier to judge. I absolutely love it to produce music here. Before I produced a lot on headphones, which is okay, but you know, when you produce in headphones, you never know how it really sounds in different environments. And since I have the studio here and I export my track and listen to it on my phone or headphones or wherever, it sounds kind of similar. So for me, that's a big, big step, and I can't wait to see what kind of music I will produce in the next year.